There's a large gap in Israel's education system. That's according to the United Nations UNICEF, which in a newly released report revealed that educational inequality in Israel is among the worst in the developed world. The report, entitled An Unfair Start: Inequality in Children's Education in Rich Countries, focuses on gaps in reading comprehension scores between lowest and highest performance students based on factors such as access to education, the child's gender, parents' jobs, and migration background. In fact, Israel ranked 29 out of 31 others with the widest gaps in reading comprehension, below Chile in South America. Children in countries with greater inequality in reading scores are less likely to achieve a good level of reading proficiency, and this impacts them for years to come, according to UNICEF. So why do Israeli elementary school children have such education disparities? Well, according to the UN, differences in parental occupation explains up to 1/3 of the variation in children's reading scores. Simply put, differences in the occupation of parents or the gap in the social class of their parents explain up to 1/3 of the variation in children's reading scores in Israel. Also, the less professionally oriented the parents were, the lower the reading scores. Inequalities between children arise not only from differences in their family background, but also from differences between the schools they attend.
We know that that economic factors, socioeconomic factors, are closely related to the level of educational services, so that would tend to favor higher socioeconomic areas. So it's known statistically that in Israel there, for example, there are twice as many students in higher socioeconomic in those areas where there are more higher socioeconomic means than in say the outlying areas outside of those localities.
Policies towards education guided by political bickering have also contributed to the educational inequalities in Israel. Israel's parliament passed a law recently that could see groups critical of the government's policies banned from entering Israeli schools and speaking with pupils. Activists from Breaking the Silence call this move a very dangerous one for Israel's education system.
I can promise that we're going to do whatever we can to fight against this dangerous government, and I'm pretty sure that the students that heard us last year and the principals and teachers that invited us will continue to do that and support our work.
Ram Cohen, a principal in Israel, asked why this happened in the first place.
את השאלה, איפה היו האנשים? למה הם לא עמדו מנגד וצעקו לא? ולטעמי, אנחנו היום במדינת ישראל מדרדרים למקום שבו הציבור צריך לקום ולומר עד כאן. אי אפשר לחוקק חוקים סלקטיביים שפוגעים בקבוצות אוכלוסייה שלא מוצאות חן בעיני השלטון. ואני חושב שכמנהל בית ספר, כמחנך, שזה חובתי לקום ולומר, רבותיי, עד כאן, החוקים האלה הם כבר חוקים שבאים לפגוע במרחב הדמוקרטי, אני לא נותן לזה יד, אני לא מסכים לזה ואני אתנגד לזה.
Other activists from the Israel Democracy Institute believe that Israel wants to censor education.
It is part of a phenomenon of delegitimization of NGOs from the extreme left, or just from the left. And this is one of the suggestions. Education is about thinking critically. It's about hearing people that you don't agree with. And this is what we want to teach our children to be. We don't want them just to hear one side of the story. We want them to hear things.
Proponents of the bill, including ultra-right-wing Zionists, however, argue that those who criticize Israeli policies, especially towards the Palestinians, and of course he's talking about Jews, shouldn't be allowed in school.
צה"ל הוא קונצנזוס, ומערכת החינוך צריכה להישאר בתוך גבולות הקונצנזוס הזה, ומי שפוגע בו וחותר תחת האושיות הכי בסיסיות של קיומנו גם כעם וכמדינה, פשוט לא יכול להיכנס למערכת החינוך. אין בזה שום עניין של דמוקרטיה וחופש ביטוי, אף אחד לא סתם להם את הפה, יש להם חופש ביטוי מלא במרחב הציבורי. מערכת החינוך היא לאו דווקא מרחב ציבורי, היא מערכת חינוך. צריכה, כמו שאמרתי, לחנך לעולם ערכים מינימלי של הזדהות לאומית, פטריוטית עם המדינה ועם עצמם.
A laissez-faire economic system does not provide for those strata of society at the lower end of household income and or wages. For example, in Israel, the Ashkenazi or white European strata of society has about 31% more gets 31% more income than or salary than the average salary. Behind that, you get the Mizrahi Jews who are not white Ashkenazi. They make about 14% more than the average salary. Then you come down to Palestinian Israelis who make about 2/3 of the average salary, and below that, the Ethiopian Jews and black Israeli Jews who get about half of the average salary. So basically, at the lower end of of income, you're also going to have lower means of and lower services in education.
The Israeli education system takes into consideration political points and the occupation of parents. In fact, the UN says that significant education inequalities in Israel arise from the parents' occupation and affiliation, with the children of non-professionals doing much worse than children with at least one parent in a professional job. Only 5.4% of disadvantaged students in Israel attend schools where most students are from advantaged backgrounds, according to a report by the OECD. Israel's spending per student is lower than average across the world, with investments totaling just $8,000 per student. Just over half, or 51% of Israeli children from households of low socio-economic status attend schools, the same source reports, adding that the disparities persist in university studies as well.
As long as Israel remains a society and an economy based on unfettered free market principles, things will not improve. The underlying factors that bring better opportunities and better standard of living for the general population are socioeconomic, and in Israel that's a failure.
With educational gaps ever so wide, one can only speculate that the status quo isn't going to change anytime soon. The repercussions, however, will have a huge impact on the social status of possibly countless Israelis in the short and long term.